But we don't just need the sharpest minds in the classroom. We need theologians in the pulpit. We need people who are teaching sound doctrine to build up the body of Christ. And so I would encourage people pursue theological training, whether you want to be a professor or a pastor. But then we also have to be really careful about making sure that we're not going after it for the degree itself. And we don't need more pastors who have big heads and shriveled up hearts. The biggest mistake that I made as a young pastor was being blind to my ministry idols. When I look back on myself as a 25-year-old, if you would have asked me, what do you want to do ministry-wise? I would say, I want to plant churches for the glory of God. And looking back on that, there was certainly some truth in that in my motives, but there was also a lot of mixed motives that I was unaware of. I really wanted to be the guy up front. I wanted to be on stage. I wanted people to think that I was awesome, right? And there's a real danger in ministry to have the same kind of temptations that people are going to have in business or in entertainment or whatever it is to be successful according to worldly standards, and then to spiritualize it. And I think that's especially a temptation, the spiritualizing part for pastors, because we're good at that. And so I look back on that and I had a lot of ministry idols. I really wanted worldly success. I wanted people to think highly of me. And God has graciously exposed a lot of my pride in that over the years. I know that I have blind spots now, and I pray that God would reveal those. And I've tried to surround myself with people who will point those out to me. But when I look back, I just had a lot of ministry idols, deep things in my heart that were really driving me, that were rooted in pride that I wasn't very aware of. And if I could have dug those up a little bit earlier, it would have saved me a lot of pain and difficulty, and I'm sure the people that I was ministering to as well. From a young age, when I got saved, I really felt a sense of calling towards leadership and towards teaching, and that developed for me over the years. I mean, I had a heart for the church, and I think that sense of calling came out of just a burden of recognizing that people need to hear the gospel, people need to understand the scriptures, people need to be cared for. A lot of my calling is the overlap of ministry and then academia. I loved ministry, and I was doing youth ministry, and then I was going to seminary, and I felt like they were these two worlds that were really different. And I remember reading a quote by Albert Einstein when I began seminary that said, you don't really understand something unless you can explain it to a child. And so I took that to heart and said, whatever I'm learning in seminary, I want to teach to these middle schoolers and high schoolers. And I felt like if I can't do that, then I'm wasting my time over here in seminary. And I started doing that, and I loved it, and they loved it. I remember teaching them this early church history stuff, and they were eating it up. And I recognized that they were hungry for truth. They were hungry for depth. And so that really shaped the way I grew as a pastor in wanting to take high-level theology and bring it to the street and to the pew in a way that people can understand and apply. Yeah, I don't think that you have to have a PhD to be a pastor, of course. But for me, it's certainly been a huge gift and provided a foundation for my ministry theologically. I mean, I'm just dealing with so much stuff all the time that you can't point to a verse for it. And so I'm constantly leaning on my theology. And the amount that I draw from the training that I had is so significant because as a pastor, I never have enough time to study the passage as deeply as I want to. I never have enough time to read as much as I want to. So I'm constantly drawing from that foundation. And my advice to somebody who's considering getting a PhD is that a PhD obviously can help you in moving towards being a professor and researching, but we don't just need the sharpest minds in the classroom. We need theologians in the pulpit. We need people who are teaching sound doctrine to build up the body of Christ. And so I would encourage people pursue theological training, whether you want to be a professor or a pastor. But then we also have to be really careful about making sure that we're not going after it for the degree itself. And we don't need more pastors who have big heads and shriveled up hearts. We have to learn how to take that theology and let it fuel doxology, and discipleship and building up the church. The nice thing about being a pastor with this is I'm already prepping for Sundays. I'm already meeting with people all the time. So I'll just try and take a lot of the reading that I want to do or the study that I want to do and gear it towards that. So I'm not doing side projects that are kind of totally irrelevant to what I'm doing in ministry. If I'm preaching on a passage, then I might think, well, I'm going to go see what Augustine said on this, right? Or I'm going to read this new book that came out that's closer on this topic and do some deeper thinking there, as opposed to just trying to craft a sermon outline really quick and think of a few points that I can make. Like I'm trying to create space where I can go deep, but then bring that depth into practical areas. Another really practical thing that I do is on the days where I do sermon prep usually on Mondays and Thursdays, and I have most of that days blocked off for vision and preaching, but I have lunch with people in the church in the middle of those days. And so what I find is when I'm prepping my sermon in the morning, I'm usually like geeking out and getting all theological and running down rabbit trails that are fun and exciting. And then I meet with someone and their boss is being a jerk to them, or they're struggling with being single, or whatever it is, and it brings it back to me of like, okay, I need to take what I've been learning and apply it to what people are going through in the church right now. And that's tethered me to my love for theology, of applying it to actual people.